When footage comes off of the set, it's not necessarily ready to edit. My camera is recording the visuals, and this audio device is recording my microphone. They are completely separate files, and they're going to need to be synchronized into a merged clip or a multicam clip so that they're actually usable together, so that I can sound really good and pretty and not sound like this. This is the microphone coming off of the camera. It's atrocious. So the digital imaging technician on set dumped all of the footage and organized it safely on the hard drives. And that's where the media is at. Somebody's got to make a project file. Import all of this footage into the project file. Somebody's got to synchronize all of the audio and the video so that they work together and we have unique clips. Somebody's got to name all those clips so that we know which scenes and takes they come from. Somebody's got to organize it by those scenes and takes. When you have hundreds of clips, it's so easy to get lost. So somebody's got to add descriptions to all of those shots so that we know what we're dealing with. Sometimes actors need to do multiple passes in the same take. So you might have a 5-minute take where the actor does their performance a dozen times. We need to be able to quickly find each time they performed again. As an editor, you want to be worrying about flow, about pacing, about storytelling, about rhythm. As an editor, you really want to be emphasizing the art and the beauty and the information of your content. You don't want to be fighting with your footage. I feel really lucky and really humbled to have been complimented over the years by many of my colleagues and peers, telling me that I'm a very fast editor, and they often wonder why. And I've had a hard time sometimes explaining why it is that I'm so fast, because really, when I'm actually in the edit, I'm not doing much differently than any of my friends. One of the biggest things that makes me different, that makes me faster, is my preparation. I will spend 8 hours assistant editing so that I can put together a rough draft in 2. Let me explain the difference. If you have every single clip annotated so that you can very clearly identify just through the text exactly which clip you want, if you have all of the clips grouped in their individual setups and sections so that you can visually distinguish them from each other, if each take has every single pass marked so that with a click of a button you can jump between every performance, just imagine how much faster you'll be when you're in an editing session with a director. If the director says, "I don't love that take, let's find a new one," if you don't assistant edit correctly and log and mark all of your footage, you might find yourself in a feedback session with a director where they ask for a new take. And now you and the director together have to sit and watch 20 to 30 minutes of individual takes, trying desperately to find all of the performances and probably missing some. But if you had it all marked, if you had spent an hour marking each one of those individual passes beforehand, when the director says, "I'd like a new version of this," with the press of a button on your keyboard, you can jump between all 20 different performances. Like that. I'm not going to lie to you. Assistant editing is so boring. It is by far my least favorite part of the job. It usually takes me 1 day of assistant editing for 1 day of production. So if you're asked to work on a short film that they filmed over 7 days, you're probably stuck assistant editing for your first 7 days. But what that means is the rest of your time editing is much more powerful. You're spending your time making knowledgeable, artistic, intentional decisions because all of your footage is at your fingertips. Instead of spending most of your time slogging through the muddy waters, desperately looking for performances and only finding some of them. So the assistant editor has a boring job, but it is absolutely crucial. Editors can make much better decisions, produce much higher quality and more engaging content, and do so extremely quickly when they either have a good assistant editor or they did their own assistant editing to quality. It's a drag, but it is a drag that is 100% worth it. This is a super good metaphor. It's basically like a puzzle. When trying to solve a puzzle, there's different methods to the madness, right? Some people will start separating by color or shape or texture. Some people will focus on doing the edge pieces first. Some people will use the reference image and try to hit significant shapes first. What you don't see them doing is simply laying out every single piece and trying one piece on one piece at a time with no rhyme or reason, just trying to fit shapes together. There's usually a way to better organize the puzzle pieces in front of you in order to understand them. We're breaking the process up. And that's exactly what we're trying to do when we're organizing all of this footage. We're trying to make it make sense because sometimes there's so much of it. So it's not necessarily right or wrong to do edge pieces first or to do colors first, but most people typically agree edge pieces, then significant color groups, then start to fill in the gaps.